Hey guys, Tarke and the cat back again, and today we're going to be talking about Overwatch. And after all of that setup, it looks like the cat is bored of this video. Right, so now that that's out of the way, I'm going to be talking about Overwatch, how Blizzard may or may not monetize it. I will make reference to Heroes of the Storm, and basically how I see the system working going forward. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk briefly about Heroes, why the Heroes model, in my mind, doesn't really work, and why I don't want Blizzard to take this model going forward. Now, the core issue with the Heroes model is purely the pricing. If you don't know, basically the way that Heroes of Storm works is like nearly every other MOBA. Heroes come out, you can buy for them with gold, or you can pay for them with money. The way that the gold pricing works, which is the in-game currency you earn by playing the game, and this is what I really despise about Heroes of the Storm, is it takes a very, very long time to earn currency. Now, the average price of a hero is anywhere from 2,000 for like the beginner ones, but generally 10,000 for anything interesting. Now, when you get to 10,000 gold, you've played for a long time. It takes a while. There are some perks and bonuses gold that you get early on for reaching like certain levels, but trust me, once you've gotten all that stuff out of the way, it takes a lot of grinding to reach a certain bracket. Now, when a new hero comes out, instead of costing 10,000 gold, they cost 15,000 gold. And then after a set period of time, that price goes down. Now, I realise that Blizzard's a company, and I realise that they're trying to incentivize people to pay with real money, quite obviously when it comes to the 15,000 price hike. But it always felt kind of cheeky, not even cheeky, it just kind of felt unrespecting, you know, like they weren't really respecting the player base when it came to that decision, because it's very, you know, money grabbing. If you look at something kind of like Dota, right? So with Dota, the system is from the very get-go, you can play anything for free. If you play enough, you can actually unlock skins without having to buy them. Or if you want to, you can just buy the skins from the get-go. That, in my mind, is the correct model, and that is how you should make a MOBA. So, the reason why I'm talking about MOBAs, and the reason why MOBAs are relevant, in particular why Heroes is relevant to Overwatch, is this is the model that Blizzard has used in the past, very recently, with a very similar style of game. What I mean by that is it is a team objective-based game looking for esports, right? Does that make sense? Now, the places where they're different is obviously in genre, and this is another thing where I feel we can learn a lot from Heroes. Now, with Heroes, we had a lot of initial hype, the numbers went really high, they sort of petered down, and then they leveled off. The reason why they petered down and leveled off is twofold. First, we have a lot of people who don't like MOBAs, but because it was a Blizzard game, they checked it out, and that has a lot to do with it. And secondly, you have MOBA players who already have their favourite MOBA, right? So they already say, oh, League of Legends or Smite or Dota or whatever their, you know, thing is. They already have a favorite, but they wanted to check Heroes out. It was something new. It was something exciting. Now, what happened quite clearly is that we had the people who just went in for the beginning because it was exciting and it was a Blizzard game, and the people who already had their favorites. I feel like we're going to have the exact same, not necessarily issue, but we're going to have the exact same pattern going into Overwatch. What will almost definitely happen with Overwatch, and you know, the hype is real at the moment. If you check it out on Twitch, well, watch Bob Ross first, because, you know, painting OP. But anyway, once you've stopped looking at happy little trees, you look at it and you go, everyone's like, I want a key, I want a key, I want a key. There's a lot of quite high profile streamers and YouTubers quite annoyed they don't have keys, but that's another point. Anyway, there's a lot of hype at the moment for Overwatch. A lot of hype. What I think is going to happen is that people are eventually going to get in. They'll go up, 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 up. They'll get bored of it, and then it will steady off. That way, even. Now, the reason why all of this is relevant is when it comes to pricing Overwatch, and again, the reason why I'm making this video, we don't know what the payment model will be. All of this affects it quite heavily. Now, going back to Heroes for a moment, with Heroes, this was the first time that Blizzard had really done the full-on buy into beta. They had examples where if you pre-ordered their games, you would eventually get into the beta. We've had this with WoW expansions. But they've never done a flat-out, you click this button now, you get into the game now. And they made a lot of money, and that was very successful in Heroes. The reason why it was so successful is the hype was real and there was limited access, right? And it wasn't too extortionate. It was, you know, pricey to an extent, but it wasn't an unreasonable. If you look at some companies charging, you know, upwards of $50 to $100, this was a much more reasonable scale. Now, I'm almost 100% certain this is the model we're going to see with Overwatch. Again, if you go back at that old system, when you have games which have a spike at launch and then they teeter down, you want buy-to-play models. So if you look at the average console game, you know, you pay your $60 once, and that's it. Maybe you pay for some DLC later down the line, but all they really care about is that initial core investment. I think not almost definitely, but I think it's incredibly likely that we're going to have this buy-in beta. And the reason why I think we'll get a buy-in beta is I would be absolutely shocked if you had to pay to play Overwatch once it did launch. It's almost definitely going to be free to play. So what they can do is by having the buy-in beta, they can effectively make their free-to-play game, which will most likely have some form of microtransaction, still buy-to-play, because very few people have the willpower when it comes to games, especially Blizzard games, to resist a reasonably priced buy-in beta. Again, I stress reasonably. If Blizzard expects people to pay, you know, $50, $100 or pounds, then, you know, it's not going to be that high. But if you only have to pay £15, $20 to get in, a lot of people, especially right now, will go for it. Now, we do know that it's a closed-off beta at the moment. It's friends, family, and basically streamers. And Blizzard has said that there will be beta weekends. They haven't said open beta, but they'll have, like, weekend invites going out where you get to play for just a weekend. So I don't expect this beta buy-in to happen instantly, but I wouldn't be surprised if a few months after BlizzCon, this became a thing. Now, again, the reason why all of this is relevant is with a game like Overwatch, you can't have a hero pricing model. What I mean by that is, with Heroes of the Storm and most other MOBAs, is you either have all the heroes for free, or, and this is the more common model, you have heroes on a free rotation. So let's say you have 5 to 10 heroes you can play one week. Next week the rotation changes, so you eventually get to try everything, and then that counts as like your trial period. Then you buy what you want to buy. The reason this cannot, and if Blizzard does this, they will completely destroy Overwatch. But the reason why this cannot work in Overwatch is in Overwatch you can change your hero on the fly. If you die, you change your hero. If you run back to base, you change your hero. Metas are forming. Just from watching a few streams, I was watching Rekful earlier, and he'd made this attack meta with his group where basically they all ran Winston, which is the big gorilla guy, and if they're on assault, they all run this massive tank. He does a lot of damage, loads of shields, and you dominate. Now, in a standard MOBA format, you pick your hero once at the start of the game, and that's it. In ranked, you have a banning phase, but if we just look at the core casual, like just random free-for-all modes, you have a pick once option. This cannot work in Overwatch, and this isn't the model of Overwatch. With Overwatch is you constantly change. So going back to the Rekful example, he was doing this, it was like, this is amazing, and then very quickly they realised their meta wasn't that amazing because Reaper absolutely destroys Winston, so the whole enemy team just swapped. But then Rekful team swapped, and you got this really fun, really organic back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That is the strategy of Overwatch. That is the uniqueness of Overwatch. Overwatch, without this system, could quite easily become just another generic FPS, right? The thing which makes it good, and the thing which makes it different, is it follows a very Team Fortress 2 style model. And before you start going on about that, they have developers from Team Fortress 2 work on Overwatch, so expect some similarities. And anyway, Team Fortress 2 is a really good game. So a more modern version of Team Fortress 2, yeah. But anyway, sorry, it's going off. That is the core. Now, if you have a rotation base, it completely destroys that model. Because what will happen is you'll have entire strategies and entire weekly metas being formed around abusing characters which aren't available. So what I mean by that is if we use Bastion, for example. Bastion is a character in Overwatch, which is basically a cool little robot guy. If you've watched Crip Stream recently, you know who Bastion is. But anyway, what he does is he walks around and then he goes into a turret and he just shoots in front of him. Right? He just has a machine gun in front of him and he gets a shield which absorbs loads of damage only in front of him. His side's open and his back is open. So the way you counter Bastion is you play someone like Tracer or insert hero here with mobility, and you get behind him, and that's that. Now, imagine a weekly rotation system where all the mobility heroes, so let's say Tracer and Pharaoh, or Farah anyway, they're not available. So Bastion is available that week. You have loads and loads of people playing Bastion. You can't play the counter. That's going to be really frustrating. Not only will that be really frustrating, the difference between being a player without, who hasn't bought like a hero pack, for example, you have no way of countering that strat. So if the enemy team's on defense and they've got 2 to 3 bastions, you're screwed outside of, using a Hanzu ultimate through the wall. But there's no easy way to counter it. However, if someone on your team had bought Tracer, then suddenly, you're in a massive advantage because you can just counter it no problem. And because of that, because of that model, you have to have all heroes available all of the time. Even if Blizzard were to use a model where they had their, original 20, and then post that they had the odd new hero coming out every now and again, even those can't be buy to play. They have to be added and part of the core experience, because otherwise you'll just have really, really horrible metas forming. And they're trying to make this a big esport. They can't have an esport game which actively punishes players to that level, right, who don't buy in. Now, then you go, okay, so if they can't do that, they'll probably just use skins. And there probably will be some form of skins or Team Fortress 2 hats. But, again, we don't expect it to be buy-to-play. If it's a core buy-to-play experience, then they're shooting themselves in the foot because they're limiting the amount of people who can play it. So it's more than likely that we're going to get a buy-to-play beta. They're going to make an absolute killing off that, and that's where they're going to make a lot of their core revenue. And then they'll have hats and the whales. A whale is someone who basically buys a lot of microtransactions. That's what's going to keep the game afloat. Anyway, that's my theory on it. If you disagree, I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. And if and when I ever get an Overwatch key, I'll give you some more Overwatch coverage. Anyway, I'm Tarke. The cat disappeared, but she's around. Thanks again, and we'll see you both tomorrow. Bye-bye. Or, in the words of Bob Ross, God bless.